everyone, so today we are going to begin with our very first tutorial introduction about NMAP. So NMAP is a tool which has been created by Gordon Leon, and it helps you to map an entire network, and also it is very easy for us to check any open ports and services running by using this NMAP. Next, we can use this NMAP on CLI based as well as GUI based. Before that, seeing the GUI based, let's talk about the CLI based only. When we are talking about CLI based, we can have NMAP on different OS. Okay, so what OS it is using? So we have Windows, Linux, Red Hat, Ubuntu, Fedora, Mac, Mint, and whatnot. We can have various distribution of Linux as well. Next, when we talk about the NMAP and it's working on different OS, there are certain high defined usage, or we can say advantage in terms of cyber security, in terms of networking. Okay, so let's see that what is its importance of using this tool. So when we are discovering the network, we can see the host, services, ports, configuration, and we can map an entire topology of that network. Okay, and the worst thing about this is that an attacker could have an entry point if there are certain open ports which should not open, which should have to be closed. Okay, so let's see that has an ethical hacker, penetration tester, and a security. If they want to secure, so why an organization need an Nmap tool? So here we have an answer, that is security auditing. So there are professionals or the network professionals who are going to use this Nmap tool. So they will use this Nmap tool to find certain kind of vulnerabilities, misconfiguration by performing scanning on a network. Okay, so where they can get to know there are certain kind of vulnerabilities or not, or any kind of misconfiguration has been done over there or not, or any kind of potential points which can lead an attacker to have an entry. So by gathering this information, they can take a preventive measures on it to prevent their network or prevent their organization. Okay, so now next move on to the port scanning. As we know, we have different types of ports. We can gather different information about that port. So what we can get by using the Nmap in terms of port scanning, we can identify the open ports, closed ports, and what use cases has been deployed on the firewall. So we are able to get the discovery whether the ports are open, closed, or not. So it can also be a crucial point where an attacker could have an entry by looking into that particular ports, which ports are used for the communication in that particular network, internally as well as externally. Okay, so next we will move on to OS fingerprinting. As we are aware about OS, but what information could we get using this particular Nmap tool in terms of OS fingerprinting? So let's check for the statement. It has been given that it has the capability to identify the operating system of devices on a network by analyzing the response to network probes. Okay, what this statement is actually trying to say that when we are using Nmap tool, there is one command which we can use to check which OS is been running on that particular network. Isn't it very good information for an attacker? Because if an attacker knows on which OS the particular ports version are been running, it is very easy for him to get an access and maintain that access in the network. Because over here what's happening, he or she is directly getting the information about that the particular port, TCP port, UDP port, having communication with this version, and what services are running on that port, as well as he is also getting the information on which OS, whether it's on Ubuntu, Debian, Linux, Windows. So it's very potential, or you can say very crucial information, which is also vulnerable for a network to have that information publicly But the beauty of the nmap tool is that only that it helps you to discover each and every detailed instruction of the network. Okay, the very next thing, that after discovering OS, what else we can discover? We can no, not I can say discover, we can detect the vulnerabilities. Okay, so how we can able to detect this certain kind of vulnerability by using the nmap tool only. So over here we have a plugins that is NSC, which is also called as NMAP script engine. So NMAP script engine have a very good scripting done in Lua language, which help us to check for that particular or specific vulnerabilities in the system and the services running on that system. Okay, so as a security tester, what we can do by finding out these vulnerabilities in our system or in the network, we can get a good patch over it. We can resolve that vulnerability by strengthening more or giving more security to that particular ports or services which requires or which says that it is vulnerable to have an attack. Okay, so this is what a vulnerability detection could help us. Next thing, as I am talking a lot about that penetration tester. So what the security professional or the ethical hackers can do by using this nmap tool, they can simulate a real world attack. Okay, so how they can simulate a real world attack, because as an ethical hacker or the security profession, there is a need and demand of an organization to know that what ports are vulnerable, whether their network is secure or not. So as a security professional and ethical hacker, they could not go for an attacker and say that please you do certain kind of attack so we can check whether there are certain vulnerabilities or not. Okay, so what they can do, they are using certain tools in which nmap is also one of them, that they are using for penetration testing, and they simulate a real world scenario where they can find the weakness in the network, and they can check for the malicious activity whether an exploit could happen or not by using only nmap tool. I'm not talking about the rest tool, only nmap tool. So penetration testers are the ones who are using this nmap tool to simulate a real world example, to find out what weaknesses are there, what malicious activity could be there, what payload or exploit could be generated over there. Okay, so the next thing, that firewall evasion and monitoring. Yes, of course we can bypass a firewall. We can monitor also the network by using the nmap tool. Okay, because when we are checking for a particular, discovering the host, checking for the vulnerability detection over there, we can know what ports are being using, what services are using within the network or outside the network. So this help us to monitor the firewall setups as well. Okay, so nmap is the tool most oftenly used by the network experts as well. Okay, these are the importance of this nmap tool, or you can say a summarized importance have been delivered over here. The next thing, or you can say the very last thing of topic about the nmap introduction, is that how this nmap tool is going to use in a real life cases. So we have four things, that is network discovery and inventory, penetration testing, network troubleshoot and debugging, and security assessment. So these are the four basic core which nmap has been used in the real life scenario as well. So as we see, we can use nmap tool to scan our entire network by checking its host, its ports, its services, any vulnerabilities or weakness or not. Okay, so over here there is a term that is inventory, what you can invent. So as we see in a vulnerability detection, there we have a scripting, that is NSE, that is nmap script engine. So nmap script engine have a script written in Lua language. So this scripting helps us to modify, to make some our own scriptings for our benefit purpose to check the network discovery. Okay, Next, security assessment. Security assessment is nothing where we have talked about security auditing. So security auditing help us to make our network more secure, find the vulnerabilities, work on the patches. Okay. And next, network troubleshooting and debugging. We can also do this by using nmap tool, but not only restricted to certain firewalls. We can use this in our normal basic systems as well, or even for the large organization as well. Okay, so we will see everything in detail in our next class, where we are going to see how we can install the nmap, how we can run the basic scans, how we can store our output. So these are the some real life examples about the nmap. So thank you for watching it. That's all for today.